Snow is delightful, as long as it's not your job to clear it. Hi there, everyone. Jeff here again, kicking off another year of Plain English. We'll be here each and every Monday and Thursday throughout 2024, helping you upgrade your skills in English. And we'll do that, as we always do, with stories about the world, current events, and trending topics, and of course, with new English expressions and phrasal verbs. Well, today is January 1st, 2024, wintertime in the Northern Hemisphere. Have you gotten any snow yet? In the hours after a few inches have fallen, everything is covered in a blanket of peaceful white. But for some people, snow means hard work. And today, we'll take a look at all the work that has to happen after a snowfall. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you what it means to buy in bulk. So during the story, I want you to listen for that phrase, buy in bulk. And then later on, I'll show you 2 ways to use it. Ready? Let's get started. There's a rule in local politics in America and Canada. Mayors need to clear the snow. If they don't, nothing else they do matters. So while most of us are under a blanket inside, city workers, property owners, and emergency responders are getting to work. Here's a look at all the work that has to happen to get a city or town moving again after a snowfall. The most important activity is to clear the streets so people can get where they need to go safely. For those of you in Taiwan, Brazil, or other warm weather places, a snow plow is like a big shovel attached to the front of a truck. When the plow is lowered, the truck pushes the snow to the side of the road. Snow plows start on the busiest streets, and then after a few hours or even a few days, they reach the smaller side streets. In most places, snow plows push the snow to the side of the street, where it accumulates in large piles and then eventually melts. But some places get too much snow for that. In Montreal, for example, they push the snow to the middle of the street, and then big trucks pick the snow up and take it to special snow dumps. As the plows go up and down the streets and highways, they put either sand or salt down on the pavement. Sand can help increase the friction for drivers, reducing the risk of accidents on slippery roads. Salt and other chemicals melt ice or prevent ice from forming. Local governments buy sand and salt in bulk before the snow season. They keep it in large silos where it's loaded onto snowplows and other trucks when needed. At the same time, cities have to respond to emergencies. There are more traffic accidents during and immediately after snowstorms. Vehicles get stuck and need to be towed. Cars and trucks sometimes slide off the roads. If there's public transit, buses and trains need to get started earlier. Special snow trains clear the snow from outdoor tracks and apply de-icing chemicals to keep the rails safe. Sidewalks are typically the responsibility of property owners. If you own a building, it's your job to make sure the sidewalk is shoveled and safe for pedestrians outside. Owners of large buildings pay workers or contractors to clear sidewalks, parking lots, and walkways, and then apply sand and salt for pedestrian safety. Homeowners often do it themselves. For spaces too small for a snowplow, there are a few options. The old-fashioned way is with a shovel, but this is time-consuming, heavy work if you have a large area to clear. So you'll often see people pushing snow blowers. These are small appliances like lawnmowers, but instead of cutting grass, they push the snow to one side. Snow and ice can damage utility lines too. So workers for the electrical and phone companies work overtime to track and repair damage to their lines. School administrators have a tough call. If snow is forecast overnight, they need to decide whether to open schools the next day. If they close schools, they have to get the word out early enough so bus drivers, teachers, and parents can plan ahead. Airports need to keep runways clear, but the runways are harder to clear than roads since every bit of snow has to be cleared before each takeoff and landing. Critical signage on the runway has to be brushed off so pilots and other workers know where to go. Snow must also be cleared off the critical parts of a plane before it can take off. There are special machines that spray de-icing fluid all over the exterior of a plane. Snowy cities like Minneapolis, Detroit, Toronto, and Montreal have this down to a science. But the real problem is when a snowstorm catches a warm weather place by surprise. Atlanta gets just a few inches of snow per year on average. But in 2014, 3 inches fell in one storm, and the city was not prepared. Atlanta was paralyzed for days. A layer of ice formed over the highways, making them impossible to drive on. Some people slept in their cars. Others just got out, abandoned their cars, and walked home. I grew up in a snowy place. Connecticut, a small state in the Northeast. This was before cell phones. And when there was snow, I'd wake up, as would every other kid, wake up and turn on the radio. And every 10 or 15 minutes, they would tell you which school districts were open and which ones were closed. And in my town, there were two options. Either they would open school late, 2 hours late, or they would cancel school. And I would lie there in bed, 6 a.m., 6:15, and I would listen for the announcement. They would go through the towns in the area in alphabetical order, announcing which ones were open, which were opening late, and which were closed. And I would listen for Brookfield, my town, near the beginning of the alphabet. And then I'd know if I could go back to sleep or not. These days, I'm sure there are text alerts, probably more efficient, but it takes the excitement out of listening for your town on the radio. Buy in bulk. I'm going to show you 2 ways to use this phrase. The first definition of buy in bulk is to buy large quantities of something, to buy enough to last you for a long time, to buy more than the average person would purchase. And the second definition is to buy a commodity loose or unpackaged, especially if that thing typically comes in a small package. Start with the first way to use it. If you open your refrigerator, you might find a bottle of ketchup. It might be 20 ounces, or if you buy a big bottle, maybe twice that size. But if you run a restaurant, you don't buy bottles that small. You buy much bigger bottles. You buy in bulk. You buy large quantities of it. It's cheaper and easier that way. The last time I was at Office Depot, I bought a package of 5 blue ballpoint pens. Now that should be enough for the global headquarters of Plain English for a while. When I worked in Chicago, I worked in an office with many hundreds of employees, all in the same office. We went through a lot of office supplies. They didn't buy pens 5 to a pack at my old office. They got all their office supplies in bulk. They bought large quantities, big boxes that would last a long time. So a family buys a small bottle of ketchup. A restaurant buys in bulk. They buy a bigger quantity than average. In a larger package, they pay less per ounce for it. An individual buys a package of 5 pens. A major office employer buys office supplies in bulk. Big boxes, cartons full of pens, and each pen costs less per unit. The other way to use buy in bulk is to buy something loose that normally comes packaged. Let's go to the grocery store. Imagine you have a craving for mixed nuts. You can go to the snack aisle and find small, single-serving packages of mixed nuts. You can find larger bags that might last you a week. You can find still larger jars that you might set out on the coffee table if you have guests, but they all come pre-packaged. The other way to buy mixed nuts is to buy them in bulk. And when you buy nuts in bulk, you go to the section where they're loose. They're not pre-measured and pre-packaged. You just get a plastic bag and you scoop your own peanuts, cashews, almonds, sunflower seeds, whatever, and you get however much you want. The point here is not that you buy a lot. The point is that you buy it loose, a little or a lot, your choice. And you don't pay a fixed price, you pay by the ounce or by the gram. In a big snowstorm, the local governments put salt and sand on the roads. This keeps the roads safe for drivers. And to do that, states and cities buy sand and salt in bulk. That means they buy it loose and they pay based on the weight or the volume that they order. How is this different from buying sand or salt retail? Well, if you own a house or a small apartment building and you need to sand or salt the sidewalk after a snowstorm, you'll go to Home Depot and buy a couple bags of sand or salt. It comes in a bag. It has a barcode. It has a price per bag. You take it to the checkout line. They scan it. You pay. You take it to your car. But the city of Chicago, the city of Montreal, the state of New York, they don't go to Home Depot and buy bag after bag of sand. Could you imagine? No, they buy it in bulk. They buy it loose. It doesn't come in a bag. Enormous dump trucks show up in July or something, and they dump sand by the ton into large sheds by the side of the highway. The local government needs so much, they don't pay by the bag. They don't scan a barcode. They don't stand in a checkout line. They buy sand and salt in bulk. They pay by the ton, and it arrives loose, unpackaged. So those are your two ways to use buy in bulk. Either you buy larger quantities than a typical shopper, like a restaurant buying a large jug of ketchup, or you buy something loose that typically comes in small packages, like scooping your own almonds and paying by the ounce. Here are a few other quick examples. You and I buy cleaning supplies at a retail store, but a cleaning company would buy supplies in bulk. They'll get large quantities of concentrated cleaning solution, large packages of paper towels, things like that. You can save money by buying pasta in bulk. You can buy large boxes of it and save money because it doesn't go bad quickly. Hospitals buy medical supplies and basic medication in bulk. Your local hospital doesn't buy small jars of over-the-counter painkillers. They buy them loose and in larger quantities. Well, that brings us to the end of today's Plain English lesson 636 on January 1st, 2024. Happy New Year. Congratulations on getting your year off to a good start with us here at Plain English. We will be with you all through 2024, right by your side as you work toward your English goals. If you're listening on a podcast app, subscribe or follow the channel so that you never miss a new story from us. We'll be back on Thursday with a new episode. See you then.